What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. This is the official review show for SummerSlam 2022, the PLE that aired live on Peacock from Nashville, Tennessee. They were at the Nissan Stadium specifically, that is home to the Tennessee Titans. And of course, maybe in bigger news, the home of Double J Jeff Jarrett. So we will get into everything related to the card, obviously itself specifically. But as always, thank you guys so much for checking out the pod, downloading, streaming, wherever you're doing so. It is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you for the love. I got a couple messages specifically about the prediction show with good old Elvis Escobar from Enter the Lab, their podcast. So I definitely appreciate that. There is a part 2 that will be dropping relatively soon within the next day or so, regarding just other various topics that him and I touched on prior to the prediction show for SummerSlam specifically. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And then obviously today you'll be getting the official review show for SummerSlam itself. And man, I think the show itself was, God, for grading it out of a scale of 1 to 10, I would say maybe an 8. And I would say a strong 8. I think they really knocked it out of the park. There were a few things that I'll probably nitpick, and I maybe necessarily didn't agree 100% on, but I have so much goodwill already built up. Just for obviously Triple H and the new creative team and the direction that we will have going forward. And I think last night was a fucking kick-ass show, you know? I think that, no pun intended, I think that the hand that they were dealt in respects of pretty much coming in within a week of the second biggest show of the year, and you already had the cards set, you already had all your storylines in play, and you're coming in there, you as the new team, you're coming in there pretty much with something that you can't really change. You can only do the best you can with the hand that you've been dealt, and tomorrow night on Raw, I think, is a new starting point, or I think it very well could be. And I think on SummerSlam, which we will obviously get into with the opening match, and especially the segment afterwards, really set the stage, I think, of the direction that we will have, especially for a specific division going forward. But it was very promising, and I think looking back on the whole card and the whole event itself, I think it was very promising. There's something different about the feel and the electricity that you could feel at home, and there was just like a different level of excitement. So I think for what they had, they knocked it out of the park, and we will definitely, like I said, address specifics once we get into each match individually. But man, shout out to everyone who was involved in the production, the everything, the execution of the event itself. I think the creative team, obviously Triple H, but especially the talent and the crew, like setting up an event in an arena like that, or a stadium rather. It's just, I can't imagine the time and the effort and just the the hard work that goes into setting up something that looks like SummerSlam, like your WrestleMania events. And to me, I'm just so fascinated with what the production staff and the crew guys do, and girls. So shout out to all of them as well. I don't think they get enough credit. But moving on to the specific card itself, we obviously will start with the opener. They did have their kickoff show, but there was no match on the kickoff show specific. It was just pretty much all video packages related to the matches that were on the card with your normal host and your normal panel lineup. I believe it was Jerry the King Lawler, Booker T. God, I always blank on her name, and I'm so sorry. Peter Rosenberg. I always want to call her Charlie, and it's not Charlie. Kayla Braxton. That's who it is. Kayla Braxton. So sorry, girl. We had Peter Rosenberg and I think Kevin Patrick was the other gentleman. I'm just kind of pulling off of my memory here, which I didn't sit down and specifically watch the kickoff show, but I had it on in the background. So if I missed someone or whatever, forgive me. But I believe the video package was set to country music by what is it, Jason, I don't know, maybe Jason Aldean, is that right? I don't know, guys. I'm not the biggest country music fan, not someone who sits here and knocks on it, but it's just not my cup of tea, right? But the SummerSlam event itself opened up with your Raw Women's Championship match. Bianca Belair is your champion going in, defending against Becky Lynch. Becky attempted to go on the offense early on by attempting an early leapfrog. Belair did, and Becky Lynch tripped her up. Belair then targeted the left arm of Lynch to pretty much kind of knock off of the finisher and to prevent the manhandle slam, which is obviously Becky's go-to. The match itself, it was good. Don't get me wrong. I think their WrestleMania match was probably their best match together. And thinking back on it as it should, WrestleMania is where you want to have the best match you're gonna have, right? If you're in football, the best performance of your career, or at least of that year, you wanted to be at the Super Bowl, right? Like that's obviously what you work all year to get towards. So it kind of makes me chuckle sometimes when I hear like, oh yeah, well their WrestleMania match was much better, and I'm like, well yeah, like I would hope so. Like it should be, like I wouldn't want to get to the Super Bowl or the NBA championships or anything like that, or the Stanley Cup, and not have my best performance, or have my match or my game that was in the playoff better than my championship performance specifically. So that just always kind of stands out to me whenever someone mentions it. It's like, well, yeah, dude, I would kind of hope so. But with that being said, excuse me, I still think this was a really solid match and probably their second best in their outing of 3, I believe we're at now, specifically on one-on-one affairs. But I really loved the ending of the match because to me it kind of came out of nowhere, and that's what really kind of caught me off guard, which I guess is probably part of the point as well. Becky Lynch had caught Belair on the ropes and went for the manhandle slam, but Belair countered into a Spanish fly and then ended up hitting the KOD in the middle of the ring and got the 3 count. And I think the match went about 15 minutes, maybe a few seconds over the 15-minute mark, but what happened after the match specifically between these two, and then obviously we'll get into the bigger story probably, most likely, is the bigger story. And that's the essential turn back to the good side for Becky Lynch. She extended her hand after the match was over. Once Bianca was celebrating with the championship in the ring, Becky got back in, extended her, I believe it was her right hand, as she was holding or clutching her left shoulder, or I could have that backwards. But she was still selling her arm injury, which I love. Little details there, even though I'm blanking on which arm it was. But just little things like that I really love and appreciate. And then the fact that it was an actual genuine moment. We didn't get any type of turn or, oh, like Becky's just faking her out. Bianca buys into it. They shake hands, and then Becky knocks her off from behind or whatever. It was actually a good, genuine moment. And for me, to be completely transparent with you guys, like I was just expecting and just waiting for Becky to knock the shit out of Bianca, either while she was still holding on to her or the second they release and Bianca turns her back. Whatever, I was just expecting it. And the fact that they not only shook hands but went in and actually hugged, you can tell by the emotion on Bianca's face that whatever Becky was telling her was a feel-good moment, right? And I really enjoyed seeing that, and the fact that it was actually true and like I said, genuine. And I love Bianca's emotion and the fact that you really read what she's feeling on her face, at least her character. So she just, I think, does amazing work. So shout out to that. I think, we all kind of nitpick on some areas that she could improve on, but man, like the things that she does right, like she fucking knocks it out of the park. So even with something like that, and obviously it was a real and genuine moment, so there's not really that much work that goes into something that's happening organically, but still, like, and I'll touch on this in a second once we get to the surprise returns that we had here, another kind of example of that. But I just love the moment, and I love that they went with Bianca retaining the title and making sure that she is solidified as the star on the Raw brand. And I still think that Becky loses nothing out of this. If anything, I think Becky gains a lot. I think Becky gained a lot by losing cleanly to Bianca here. There was no bullshit, and Becky owned up to it as a character. After the match itself, like I said, they obviously embraced, and Becky gave her props, and we got the official babyface turn for Becky Lynch, as she rightfully should be. So that's just one thing that Triple H and his creative team are going in there and just kind of correcting and recoursing, is that a word? Setting on a new path and on a new direction, and probably, of course, correcting, I think, is the term that I was looking for. Anyway, the big moment that happened, though, after the embrace in the ring, the moment we have all been waiting for. Bailey returns. Just fucking, oh, the second I heard that note in her entrance music, I got up out of my seat, man. I was just ecstatic. I've been waiting, as we all have, waiting for Bailey to return, and I think it was so well done. First of all, I love her outfit. I sent a tweet out on Twitter, and you can follow me again on Twitter at ASHMANNS and the show's Twitter page at KickAshPodcast_. I sent out a tweet asking, like, where the fuck she got those pants, because they're just amazing. Amazing. I love all the pockets. I'm a big pocket person, so... man, she looked fucking phenomenal, and I love that she kind of, you can tell, embraced and then took in the moment there for maybe a good 30 seconds, and then made her way down the massively long aisle that they had set up at the stadium there. But and at one point she kind of did the Razor Ramon, that kind of like jive when you're kind of, kneeling down with your arms spread out. You know what I'm talking about, guys. But man, like, it was such a cool moment. And then she stops about halfway down the aisle, and we're wondering, like, she starts mouthing off at Bianca, and we're just like, okay, like, well, obviously setting the course for what's going to happen on Raw. Bailey's going to challenge Bianca, we're thinking. We're excited for Bailey to be back. And then, bam, next thing we get is Dakota Kai. Fucking insane. Dakota Kai looked amazing. I love the dye job she did for her hair. It's, I believe it was white, pink, and then predominantly black, but just the layering that she had with the colors and the way they accentuated and just played off of each other, it was just marvelous the hair job there. She looked fantastic. I love that Triple H obviously saw that she was released and was probably thinking, what the fuck, when she was released, and was just clamoring at the opportunity of getting her to come back. And thankfully she wasn't already scooped up by, like, your AEW or Impact or anywhere else. She's, I believe, really hadn't been anywhere, so just been kind of laying low. I don't know specifically date-wise when her 90 days would have been up, so she may not have been free for too relatively long, but I think it has been at least, like, maybe a month or two, a couple months. I'd have to double-check on the dates there, but she looked fan-fucking-tastic. And then, just when we thought it couldn't get any better, we got the return or official main roster debut of Io Shirai, which going forward she will be known as Io Sky. A lot of people I saw were kind of nitpicking or complaining about, oh, here we go, here's another name change. We thought that was a Vince thing, but it's obviously spilling over. I think, first of all, I think the name is dope. Io Sky, like, I really like it. It's very, very similar to the name that we knew her as. She still has two names, and that's not like we're going to be calling her fucking Theory. So it's not like it's that big of a deal to me, but I do get it, right? Like, she built her name for herself in WWE Universe, of course, in NXT as Io Shirai, especially under Triple H specifically, so why would you change her name? And even when she debuted at SummerSlam, I'm pretty certain her video display was still calling her Io Shirai, and I'm pretty certain that's what the commentators referenced her as well. So maybe it was just an official change later on throughout the show or after the pay-per-view itself. But whatever, I'm not really gonna sit here and bitch about that. To me, it's not really that big of a deal. But yeah, and like I said, though, I do get why you would at least bring it up, and rightfully so. Like, it should be addressed, but to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I think the visual of all three of those women standing side by side in the aisle, and then, of course, making their way down to the ring specifically, they all got into the ring. So you had Bailey, Dakota Kai, and I'm just going to call her Io Sky now. Io Sky standing in the ring facing off against Bianca Belair. And what I also loved, and this is the example that I was referencing earlier, Bianca's reaction was just perfect. So when Bailey made her first debut or her first return entrance and stopped during the aisle, every way we would get like a random camera shot of Bianca, and every time her expression would be slowly going through different phases. Like, at first she was happy, and it was like, oh, okay, bet, like, this is awesome, you're like, Bailey's back, good shit. And then she's like, but then you could see the wheels start turning, right? It's like, oh, okay, like she's most likely coming out here because she's gonna want to challenge me for the title. All right, like, okay, like, let's go. And she's kind of like psyching herself up mentally. And then Dakota Kai comes out and she's thinking like, okay, like what the fuck is happening? Why are you here? You were just fired. How are you back? And I think they even referenced that on commentary too. I believe it was it Corey Graves? I'm pretty certain it was Corey Graves. Him and Michael Cole had a fantastic night, so shout out to both of them. But I'm pretty certain it was him. He had mentioned that she wasn't even under contract or something to that effect. And then, of course, when Io Sky came out, Bianca was like, okay, bet, like, let's go. Like, and she was, the thing that I loved the most was she was kind of like, like, visually, like, okay, like, bet, like, let's go. She was taking the little jewels out of her hair, the little bedazzled jeweled things. And to me, it kind of symbolized, like, especially when females are ready to fight, the first thing they take out are their hoop earrings, whatever jewelry they have, especially in their ears, because for whatever reason, that's one of the things, I'm not going to say just girl fights, but, like, for whatever reason, like, who was it? I actually heard, like, a wrestler, I think, reference the reasoning behind this, and I guess it kind of actually makes sense, but the whole hair pulling is because the explanation I heard was if you grab the hair and are, like, kind of fucking and, like, dragging them around by their hair, you obviously have control of their body, right? So I don't know, it kind of makes sense, but whatever, that's not the point here. But the whole symbolization of her taking the jewels out of her hair and getting like fucking psyched up as they were standing in the ring right across from her was just brilliant. And then the icing on the cake was having Becky, who we just saw shake hands and embrace Bianca and pretty much give her props for, pretty much like giving her a good fight. Becky comes in and stands side by side with Bianca Belair and is pretty much like, yo girl, I got you back, like, let's go. So the visual right there, just having the three women on one side, Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai, facing off against Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, and just knowing that that's your Raw Women's division going forward. And then, of course, you still have Rhea Ripley hanging out there. There's just, it's stacked now, guys. Like, Raw is gonna be the real deal going forward, and I can't wait to see how they start their journey going forward and the direction that's gonna play out on Raw. I would love if Bayley and her trio open the show on Raw. I think that'd be such a hot way to start off, to start off Raw itself. But obviously, I'm a big fan of that segment. I loved everything about it. So yeah, and I think that was one of the ways and one of the maybe ideas that Triple H was referring to when he said he wanted to make a splash at SummerSlam. I think that's a pretty big splash. We definitely got a few more waves throughout the event itself, but that was a great way to start off. The next matchup on the card was The Miz versus Logan Paul. I loved one of the small things one of the little things that makes The Miz The Miz. If you guys remember when Logan Paul made his way for his tag team match, or made his way to the ring for his tag team match at WrestleMania, he had his Pokemon card that's worth like some stupid millions and millions of dollars. Pokemon card, right? It's like just like a stupid amount of money. And all due respect, like good for you, dude. Like, get your bag, bro. I'm not mad at you at all. But The Miz came out with a card of his own that I'm pretty certain was of him hitting the skull crushing finale onto Logan Paul, and it was like in a whole case. It was like 1 of 1. Like, it was just totally just ripping off Logan Paul. So just very well done. The Miz was accompanied by Maurice and Ciampa, who came out in the most ridiculous outfit that I've ever seen Ciampa in, and I loved it. It kind of reminded me of the Jericho Appreciation Society and those guys, like the irony of them being sports entertainers, and specifically like a Daniel Garcia, just how out of place and just complete polar opposite he is of that, and how true to his core, he's a professional wrestler. So just seeing Ciampa come out in that bizarre outfit was just fucking it just tickled me. It was just so well done. But of course, Logan Paul made his way out to the ring as well. He did attempt to jump on the middle rope to kind of, show off to the crowd and everything. He slipped, but that was not a sign of things to come, because, my goodness, man, like I mentioned in the prediction show in previous pods, I didn't really even know who Logan Paul was prior to him being in WWE. I had heard of the name, but I had no care to really do any type of like digging into them at all. Just nothing against them. I just didn't really know anything one way or another, right? So it was just not in the grand scheme and in the totem pole of shit that I have of importance. It just wasn't anywhere on that totem pole. So once he made his obviously like his debut and his way into the WWE world, I obviously looked him up. It's one of those things. But I say all that to say, this fucking dude is the real deal, and as much as it may pain a lot of wrestling fans to admit, this dude is fucking jacked. His size is unreal. Not unreal. That's a little eccentric. Or a little, whatever. But his size, it's a little deceiving, rather. He obviously looks like a pretty decent sized dude. But when he comes out in his ring gear, he has no shirt on. The dude is fucking jacked. He takes his nutrition and his body and his health seriously. So between that and the hard work and the training that he put in to pull off a match that he did with The Miz, I think was just a pleasant, I don't want to say a pleasant surprise, because I kind of expected to get something, at least pretty good coming out of this match from what we saw at WrestleMania. But man, for him to be on his own on a pretty big stage, this dude just fucking delivered. And the frog splash that he hit from the top rope onto the announce table onto Miz, you guys, if you didn't see SummerSlam and you're not able to watch the full event, go search for that clip. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It probably has over 1 million views already. It was a thing of beauty. He could not have hit it any better. It was just, gosh, it was just a beautiful sight. I can't even do it justice. You guys have to go check it out for yourself. And shout out to The Miz, because The Miz just fucking played his role and his part better than anyone else probably could in that situation. And again, for all the Miz haters out there, you have to admit that dude always delivers. And if you need someone who can relate on as crazy as this may sound, at least on a celebrity level, and has crossover exposure and is believable, but can also still go in the ring and is believable in the ring and has credibility in that factor as well. I mean, not saying he's, fucking Shawn Michaels out there, but he's no slouch, The Miz is it, and I said on Twitter, the Maurice factor, rather, she adds a lot to his act, I think there's just something visually next level seeing both The Miz and Maurice out there together. Miz, is fine in his own right, but man, it's just something about having Maurice out there that just really makes them feel like an it couple and just an actual celebrity couple. So shout out to the Maurice as well, and the shape that she's in is just, girl, you are doing a lot of things right. So I will just leave it at that. At one point during the match, though, there was a spot in the match where Ciampa tried to interfere in the match. He climbed on the apron and went to punch Logan Paul, but the referee ended up catching it and attempted to eject him from ringside. Ciampa grabbed a chair, sat down on the chair, and refused to leave. Out of nowhere, next thing we know, AJ Styles' entrance music played. He showed up, pretty certain he came from or through the crowd, and just dove from Ciampa from the barricade. And they kind of brawled to the back, and obviously AJ Styles was pretty much the only security that you needed to get Ciampa ejected from ringside. And I thought that was a nice little touch. I think, a lot of the I guess speculation is a proper word, on what AJ Styles would do if he was going to be maybe a mystery opponent for Seth Rollins, which we'll get into later. Even though we were kind of grabbing at straws in that regard too. Yes, we were kind of all speculating on if Seth Rollins was going to have a replacement match, since he originally was scheduled for the show, and AJ Styles was just oddly enough not on the card either. So that would have been a good match, but I at least liked the fact that it was kind of addressed, and we, especially the fans that were in attendance, got a chance to see and hear AJ Styles. So that was a cool moment, I little things like that I definitely appreciate. But like I mentioned earlier regarding the frog splash from the top rope onto the commentators table. It was just fucking fantastic. You guys definitely gotta check that out. That was essentially the moment and the spot of the match. But towards the end, Logan Paul ended up bringing The Miz back into the ring and covered him. I don't know why I keep wanting to call her the Maurice. Maybe because I want to say The Miz, but whatever. Maurice attempted to distract the referee. Paul got in Maurice's face. Miz tried to hit Paul from behind. Paul moved, and Miz stopped short of hitting Maurice, which, again, Maurice, just the sell job that she did and of the terror of getting hit in the face from The Miz. There we go. It was just so well done. But after that, Logan Paul ended up performing the skull-crushing finale on The Miz and pinned him for the victory. This match went about 14 minutes, 15 seconds. And again, shout out to Logan Paul. That's all I can say. Again, I had never been the biggest fan of his, but dude he's showing up and he's not phoning it in. He's putting in the work. He obviously looks the part. I think he just needs to get maybe recasted into a different version of his character. I just don't think the babyface role is meant for him, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. I think some of the best heels end up being some of the best babyfaces. So that's a whole nother topic, which we will not get into right now for time purposes. But that was a surprisingly very good match. Maybe a little bit even more than what I expected. So shout out to everyone involved there. But the moment of the night, guys, that I know you all have been waiting for and that I was very, very excited to see, and the return that we were all hoping for, the Maximum Male Models, guys. We got the photo shoot. We got a full-blown Maximum Males photo shoot. Maximum Male Models photo shoot. It was beautiful. Maxine Dupree said the boys needed some water, and then out of nowhere, a sponsor, I don't know the exact name of the sponsor, which doesn't matter because they don't sponsor the show, but if they do, I would love to plug them. But their water bottles appeared, and were handed to both Mansois and Monse. They proceeded to then pour water all over themselves, just kind of plug in the water bottle. Was it like, it wasn't Pure Life? I don't know. It was I know it was like a yellow label. I don't know. It's kind of bugging me now, but whatever. So they're doing their thing, and guys, like, say what you want about me, man, but I don't, and I don't know what this means about me, but this is a guilty pleasure, and that may even sound weirder than it really should. But the water photo shoot segment fucking tickled me to no end. I loved it. They both, especially Masse, he is just so good at his role. Like, it's just, I truly feel like he's found his calling. Like, and I don't mean that with any disrespect. Like, I fucking find this shit entertaining. But the moment of the segment, we got the return of Max Dupree. He was live and in person. It was him on one side, his sister Maxine Dupree on the other side, and then of course we have Mansois and Masse in the back. Say that 5 times fast. And it was just great. It was just beautiful. I don't know if it was an actual sponsored segment, which I don't see why I don't see WWE putting over something that they aren't really getting any specific type of revenue from. So if it was just a matter of that was a legit sponsorship, they needed to plug it into the show somehow, and that's what they came up with, fucking brilliant. To me, I loved it. I got so much entertainment out of that, and like I said, I don't know what that says about me, but I think everyone who was involved in that just did a superb job. After that, we got a Roman Reigns video package airing, chronicling his lengthy title reign. The entrances next up for the U.S. Championship took place. The sun actually was setting in Nashville, and shout out to ProWrestling.net for the transcription here. Theory ended up coming out first with his Money in the Bank briefcase. Then Lashley came out standing on the podium in the entrance aisle. And my goodness, guys, like, if you follow me on Twitter, you know how much I fucking love Bobby Lashley's entrance. I think it's the best thing going. And I can only imagine what it looks like live, and especially in a stadium like that. So I love everything about it. So very, very well done. The match kind of was what it was. I wasn't really expecting much out of it. I don't even think it went the full 5 minutes. I think it went a little short than 5, or a little less than 5 minutes rather. And I kind of like that because it played into the speculation for the main event of Theory tapping out pretty quickly to the Hurt Lock. He's saving himself for the main event, right? Like, he obviously wasn't in a position to win the United States Championship title at that point. So why prolong your agony and your pain and your in the situation that you're in when you can literally tap out now and set yourself up in a prime position to possibly cash in the last man standing match. So to me, it made sense, and I'm just happy that Bobby Lashley is still being protected, and going forward, I'm really interested to see who his next opponent is going to be. But yeah, it just kind of was what it was. Next up, though, we had Judgment Day, which of course is Finn Balor and Damian Priest being accompanied to the ring by Rhea Ripley. I love the new gear. I love being able to see like all her tattoos on display because they're just fucking dope, and they just really especially plays into this darker character. So I love the visual of the Judgment Day, even if I would have maybe liked them to be a stronger faction, which is no fault of their own, or even the creative team that we have now. But yeah, we'll see what happens with them going forward after tonight's happenings. But they were facing off against Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio in a no DQ match. And I know a lot of people were kind of questioning why they were still abiding by the tag rules since it's a no DQ. And yeah, like they technically didn't have to stand, or they could have interfered in the match at any point and done pretty much anything they wanted. But if you want to make a legal tag in the match and you want to obtain a legal victory, my understanding is you still need to be the legal partner in the match, and the only way to receive a legal tag is to be on the outside holding the tag rope. So to me, that was kind of like that just was my understanding, and that's why I didn't really question it. So when I saw all the, not necessarily backlash, but just the scuttle, I guess, of and just like the calling out of that, I was kind of like, oh, well, to me it's X, Y, and Z. So just kind of a side note there. But the match itself was fine. I don't really, to me, there wasn't really that stood out much in the match. Obviously, there was a big return that we got in the match itself, but the meat and potatoes of the match itself was just kind of what you would expect, right? But the big moment of the match itself was when Edge made his return. Out of nowhere, we got some music playing and then some pyros shot off by the entrance area. Edge made his return onto like this platform that was between two fire set, like kind of like posts. It was kind of like a stairway of fire going up for the railings. Edge made his. I'm pretty certain he came up. He kind of rose from through the platform itself. He was wearing this red and black gear. It was like this red leather jacket with like black studs on it. He obviously still has his short haircut, but it was kind of cut to a different, shorter style. And he had just like trimmed and styled his beard a little differently. Just kind of looked bushier in a way. But in a clean bushy. I don't know. And of course his trademark glasses. So it was a nice kind of like hybrid of all of his visuals, I think, in the past. I'm really curious and interested to see how, like, what actual character he is going to be going forward. If he's going to be the rated R superstar, but not in the sexual manner, just in the more dark and devious manner, since that was kind of the direction for the videos that we had been getting the past few weeks. But yeah, I dug the entrance. I thought it was a really cool visual. It kind of was expected, and it kind of just was what it was. And I'm just, to me, I really want to see the follow through with this, and I'm really interested to see what this new version of Edge looks like. But yeah, he came back and pretty much secured the victory for the Mysterios, which I was kind of surprised by. To me, I wasn't surprised by the Edge return, but I was thinking maybe the Judgment Day pulls out the victory and they're beating down the Mysterios, and then Edge makes his return or something like that. But thinking back on it, since it was a no DQ match, it kind of makes sense that Edge would return during the match because, why not? There's no DQ. But yeah, the Mysterios ended up getting the victory here, and then the Mysterios and Edge ended up leaving through the crowd. So that was that, and like I said, it'll be very, very interesting to see how they have the direction for the Edge character going forward. But after that, we had Michael Cole showing up on the commentating team for the first time alongside Corey Graves, and they would be the duo going forward for the remaining card itself. And I loved, first of all, Michael Cole is a small MVP for the at-home viewing audience, because man, like that dude, he is just on. he has gotten like a second win and a second life in his career. I think between the addition of Pat McAfee and the life that Pat has had breathed into Michael Cole, and then the removal of fucking Vince McMahon yelling and screaming and just having him in his ear and having him so confided and just so restrained and handcuffed to only saying certain things and just being pretty much like a robot. It's just, there's even a moment during the night, and I don't remember the specific match, but Corey Graves, because I sent out a tweet about it, Corey Graves has said something to Michael Cole in the sense like, I liked you better when you didn't have an opinion, and Michael Cole responded with, yeah, well, that's changed, a lot's changed around here. And I was like, yes, sir. Like, yes, fucking sir. Like, it makes me want to go back and watch the pay-per-view again just to hear Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary, as bizarre as that sounds. Like, they really added so much to the pay-per-view, or PLE, but specifically Michael Cole, man. Like, I think he just really knocked it out of the park. So, shout out to him. But I loved what they did too, because the next matchup that we had was the Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin match, and I love that they were just transparent with it. They were like, "Look," Michael Cole's like, "Look, like I'm gonna be completely upfront with you guys. Like, my boy is Pat McAfee, your boy is Happy Corbin. Like, so we're pretty much, like, we each got a dog in this fight, and we're not gonna hide it, and we're not gonna ignore it." And I love it. It just added another element and another just excitement level to this match, in my opinion. We had Happy Corbin make his way out first, and then midway during his entrance and the long walk to the ring, we got a choir who started singing Bum Ass Corbin, the name Bum Ass Corbin. Just it's just perfect. It's just such a Pat McAfee thing. I don't know whose idea specifically it was, but I just feel like that would have been a Pat McAfee idea. And then of course Pat McAfee has new entrance music specifically. It starts off with saying, like, I think it's like, hey, let's go, or something like that. And then it's pretty much a rendition, a variant of his Seven Nation Army entrance music, since I'm sure that's pretty fucking pricey, and from what I've heard, maybe they're one of the harder trademarks to get. So that kind of sucks, but I like it too, because it kind of saves that specific music for like a WrestleMania maybe type of event. But it was cool, I didn't dislike that, or that didn't really take away from the moment itself. But a lot of people have said that they wish it would have been that specific music, but it is what it is to me. But the match itself was, I hate to say it, but it wasn't the best. It was, I don't even feel right calling it like a little sloppy, you know what I mean? Because, look, Pat McAfee isn't specifically a wrestler, and the training that he has been limited, but he does have substantial training, and we have seen his WrestleMania match was very good, and the match he had with Adam Cole was just another level, for someone who, with his experience level in this business. And the fact that he's just such a natural athlete, I think really saves and really adds a lot for him. But I don't know, man. It was just, something wasn't hitting on all cylinders on this match. There were a couple scary moments, and in that one spot where he went to do a swanton off the top rope, and he legit almost slipped off the top ropes. But I say that, and on the flip side, motherfucker shows you his athleticism when he literally, like, catches himself, maintains composure for like a split second, and is able to perform the swanton off the top onto Baron Corbin down on the floor. So just amazing. Just the recovery there was just superb. So, and again, like I've mentioned before, like not everything has to run smooth. You know what I mean? Like I kind of like it because it feels like it's more of a real deal type of fight. So maybe it wasn't as good as I was hoping, but to me it was still good, like it just, maybe out of like a 1 to 5, it was like maybe like a 3, when I thought it was maybe going to be like a 4, maybe 4.5. I'm not saying it was going to be like a 5-star all classic, just, like a random reading, whatever. But, yeah, like it was what it was, and I don't think that it should have been that big of a deal, or it should have really taken you out of the match or anything like that. But the end of the match was set up. It was just kind of fitting, right? Corbin went for the end of days, but McAfee slipped out of it and shoved Corbin, who accidentally hit the referee. The referee was down briefly. Pat McAfee noticed the opportunity that he had and kicked Corbin in the balls. Yes, kicked him in the balls. which, you know, played into the story because Michael Cole even addressed it, saying that that was payback for Corbin doing the same thing to McAfee from SmackDown the night before. That set up Pat McAfee to do the sunset flip from the middle rope and get the pin for the 1, 2, 3. That match went a little over 10 minutes, a little shy of 11. Yeah, it just was what it was. It wasn't anything like sacrilegious to the business or anything like that, but it wasn't anything, I think, maybe between the two, like, you know, like, I hope I don't get struck by lightning, but Logan Paul had maybe like the better celebrity match out of the two if we're comparing it in that regard. But even then, I don't think that's fair. I think it's kind of still comparing one fruit to a vegetable in a lot of regards, which you obviously can't do because it's different groups, right? So, you know, I appreciate Pat for what he does, and I appreciate the fact that you just, as a fan, you feel like Pat is one of us, and you're one, like, that's your dude, right? So you support him no matter what, and you want the best for him, and you, even if some things happen, like, you just, it's not the end of the world, and like, shit happens, and like I said, it just proves like what type of athlete he is. So yeah, like, I don't know, it, to me, it wasn't terrible. But yeah, I think it was still solid. I was kind of expecting him to go back on commentary after that, but he wasn't on commentary at all last night, so that was a little surprising, just what they, because in comparison rather to what they did at WrestleMania, but no big deal there. After that, we had highlights of Drew McIntyre beating Sheamus on SmackDown to earn a shot at the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Clash at the Castle. Of course, that's happening in Cardiff, Wales. Drew McIntyre ended up making his entrance, but he still has the fucking sword, guys, which I hate. I don't know why he still has the sword. Like, it needs to stop. Like, I don't want to see the sword going forward. I don't know if they're still holding on to the sword because of the whole castle bullshit playing. It's not cute, though. Like, I want to take Drew McIntyre seriously, and the second I see that damn sword, it's like an irrational annoyance that I have with that sword. So maybe it's not that big of a deal to you guys, but to me, for whatever reason, like, it's just annoying, and it's not believable. Like, he's never gonna hit anyone with it, which not that I'm advocating for him to do, but if you're not gonna do anything with it, and you're just gonna like hold it and like just raise it in the air, like, what's the fucking point? You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It is, especially when he comes out in jeans and a tank. Like, it's not even like he's wearing his full like get up or anything, like his kilt or anything. So I don't know, whatever. But I say all that, and on the flip side, again, I dug his little promo here. It felt like a real segment. He came out and addressed the fans. He even kind of made fun of the main event that we've gotten about 80 times now. Kind of addressed that elephant in the room. And he interacted with the fans. Like, God forbid, like, the WWE talent actually addressed the fans that were at ringside and brought them into the story. Like, again, guys, it's another sign of the new direction going forward, in my opinion. But there was this young fan named Colt sitting at ringside, and Drew asked Colt his name. Dude said Colt. And he just kind of incorporated that into his little promo segment there, just putting over the main event and then his upcoming match at Clash of the... Like I said, guys, Clash of the Championship. Clash of the Champions. Clash at the Castle. Jesus, God. But yeah, man, like, I don't know. Like, I thought it was cool. Little things like that, I think will end up going a long way for in a lot of regards going forward. But after that, we had the tag team match. We had Jeff Jarrett making his entrance, and to be honest with you guys, I was expecting a little bit of a bigger reaction for Nashville's own. So I don't know what you guys out there in Nashville have against good old Double J, but that wasn't the hometown welcome that I think everyone was expecting. But like I said, it was the tag team match. Obviously, Jimmy and Jay Uso versus the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. The Profits made a unique entrance. They were decked out in a variant of the Tennessee Titans gear, logo, colors. Had the cheerleaders at ringside or at the entranceway. It just kind of, I think Montez was even wearing a cowboy hat, if I'm not mistaken. Or I think they both were, actually. Or Dawkins' hat fell off or some shit. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked the incorporation of, like, the hometown vibe and just the... I don't know. It's something that you normally would see babyfaces do back in the day, and it was something that Cena did, too, especially when he was a good guy. He would incorporate the biggest star of that sports team into the act, so it just kind of made sense, you know what I mean? Especially since they're in the fucking stadium anyway, you know, why not? But I will say... the match, it was good. It was good quality. To be completely like honest with you guys, like Jeff Jarrett kind of took away from the match for me a little bit. It still felt unnecessary. Like it made no sense. And I know it was just one of those things that we had to deal with since it was already booked, and going forward, I don't see something like that just randomly happening. But I don't know, like it was just too much, it was just too much and not needed. And Montez Ford, I think it was very surprising though. The way he was reacting to Jeff Jarrett and his attitude and how irritated and mad he was getting about certain like quote slow counts from Jeff Jarrett, thinking that he should have gotten a 3. Just I don't want to say being heelish, but I mean just being real mad and just getting real emotional about some shit that maybe he necessarily shouldn't have. And even Michael Cole had addressed it on commentary as well a couple times, but. Long story short, guys, the ending of the match occurred when the Usos ended up getting Montez Ford on the other side of the barricade. I think, was it like a double super kick or something like that? And then they tossed him over the barricade. They had Angelo Dawkins in the ring and hit him with the 1D, their new finisher, which is the 3D Dudley Death Drop. All these alliterations. And yeah, like, I do like that they're protecting that move, though. Once that you hit that move, or they hit that move, like, you're done. Like, you're not kicking out of that shit. So, I was surprised there was a moment where Montez Ford hit a beautiful 5-star frog splash. Maybe not 5-star, sorry. Just a frog splash. Sorry, RVD. But he sold his ribs, man. The rib injury was too much, so he couldn't make it back to cover. I forget which Uso it was. In time, maybe it was Jay, to get the full 3 count. So that was a very believable near fall, though. A lot of people thought that was going to be the end of the match, myself included. And it wasn't. After the match, after the Usos retained their tag team titles, they left the ring, and we just got a visual of both of the Prophets sitting in the ring, and Ford just looked pissed off, man. Like, I don't even think he made eye contact with Dawkins, who was the one who ended up taking the pinfall. So I don't know if this is seeds beginning to be planted, which is kind of bittersweet, and we talked about on the prediction show. But yeah, man, I was kind of surprised because I was kind of hoping that they were going to put the titles on the Prophets to kind of keep them together for a little while longer, at least maybe another 6 months, and then do the turn or the breakup there, however you want to play it out. But if this is the beginning of the end, I'm very interested to see how they play it out, because it wasn't an immediate breakup last night, so I think this may be maybe not a long-term slow build, but not a quick turn. So I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out. After that, we had a Wild Riddle enter the ring. Matt Riddle made interrupted the show. Apparently had been sitting ringside for the duration of the show, and called out Seth Rollins. Said that, Randy Orton told him not to take crap from anyone before he left to go out on injury. So Riddle called out Seth. We got Seth's entrance. His music played. A lot of people referred him as looking like a giant sherbet walking out there with the color of his clothes and just the getup that he was wearing. But yeah, Rollins made his way to the ring. They kind of started beating the shit out of each other, and then Rollins ended up hitting the stomp on Riddle again, which kind of makes Riddle look bad. Like, in one hand, you respect Riddle for coming out there and not taking shit and being pissed off that he was taken off of the card, and I liked the fire that he had, like the seriousness, and just I liked his demeanor, and the fact that Seth got the upper hand again. Hopefully that's going to be a sign where it just, like, that's it, and that's the tipping point for Riddle. So the next time we do see Riddle, it's just a complete 180 of the Riddle that we all have known up until this point, and he just spazzes and just goes crazy on Seth. So I hope we're going to get something like that, which I'm sure the match at this point is going to occur at Clash at the Castle. After that, though, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Your champion going in, of course, is Liv Morgan, facing off against Ronda Rousey. And I'm just going to be blunt with you guys and kind of straight to the point. I was not a fan of this match. I don't really know what I was expecting. I didn't hate it, but it just didn't make Liv look good, I think, and and I say that, and I say that, but I get it at the same point, in the same token, too. So, like, the majority of the match, pretty much Liv was just on defense, and Ronda was hitting her with various submission holds, and the main thing that Ronda wanted to do, obviously, was get Liv in the armbar and have Liv Morgan tap out, because that's obviously Ronda's go-to. there was so many different attempts to it, and I don't really know what, I don't recall thinking back on it, much offense that Liv ended up getting in. The end of the match occurred when Ronda had gotten Morgan, so like she got the armbar on Morgan, right, and she got her down to the point where Liv was, it was questionable and if Liv was going to be able to continue. The referee was checking on her in the corner, even was going to have the doctor come over to check on her arm to see if she was good to go. Maybe the doctor even ended up coming over, I'm not entirely sure. But Liv was like, no, I'm good, I'm going to continue, like, let me go, let me fight. Ronda at that point was pretty much just like, all right, like, fuck this, like, this is like, she's like a shark smelling blood, right, like, going in for the kill. Ronda grabs Morgan, rolls her up immediately into the armbar, but Ronda's shoulders, actually the angling of the armbar, ended up being down. At the same time, both shoulders of Ronda Rousey's being down, Liv had the advantage, so technically Liv was in the pinning position. Yes, she was still in the armbar. By the time the referee counted 2, Liv tapped out, but the referee didn't see it, so the referee ended up counting 1, 2, 3 with Ronda Rousey's shoulders being pinned to the mat. And technically, Liv did get the 3 count, but Liv tapped out prior to the 3. So it's a whole thing, guys, right? Like, and again, that's why I say I understand where they were going with the outcome of the match. And I don't even necessarily hate it. Why put the title on Liv to begin with? And I understand, like, it was a different regime and all that shit, but it's like, all right, like, how are we going to correct this going forward? And in a lot of ways, too, I do respect the fact that they didn't want to take the title off of Morgan here. So I give them a pass, but I just wasn't a fan of the match itself. But I kind of do like the in a lot of ways, as much as it sounds like I'm shitting on it, I like the difference in the different ending, right? I like the kind of creativity, no pun intended there, with the finish. We technically, Liv Morgan did tap out prior to the referee counting 3, so she should have lost. Ronda Rousey should be your champion, and it gives Ronda Rousey an excuse for being so pissed off. Now, Ronda Rousey didn't need to flip out the way she did, and she ended up trying to put the referee in an armbar directly, so I'm sure we're going to get a whole fallout from that, and a lot of people are saying that's the heel turn from Ronda Rousey, and if it is, then we ended up getting our double turn that we wanted in the Becky Lynch turning babyface and Ronda Rousey turning heel roles, so that would kind of set the early stages for WrestleMania next year going forward, so we can finally get that one-on-one match out of the way. But it still is. It still does remain to be seen for sure if that was the heel turn for Ronda Rousey. But I mean, God, you try to put a referee in the armbar, like, that's not a good guy thing. So I don't know how they would talk their way out of that one. Next up, we ended up setting up for the main event itself. We did get Mayor King coming out there and announcing the attendance. They announced 48,449. He did his little pyro thing, and that was what it was. It makes sense since they're in Tennessee and he's the mayor of Knoxville, but that was pretty much it. Roman Reigns made his entrance, and I was thinking while he was making his way to the ring, like, the Undertaker may be gone, but we have not escaped just a substantially long entrance. Granted, for him, like, yes, he always does normally take a long time, and last night was not his fault being in a stadium, and you literally probably have to walk like half the field just to get to the ring. But man, it was just kind of funny. Like, it made me think of The Undertaker, and just like, I wonder if The Undertaker was making his entrance there, like, I would have loved to have timed it to see, like, who got to the ring in the quickest time. Because I think one time when I timed it at Madison Square Garden, Undertaker took a full, from the beginning of the music hitting to him making it to the ring, it was like a good, like, almost 6 minutes. And that was just at the Garden. Like, imagine how long it would take to get to the ring in a stadium. But yeah, Roman Reigns made his way, and then all of a sudden we got Brock Lesnar's music. Brock Lesnar started to make his way out, and then all of a sudden he kind of backtracks and then veered off the entranceway path to a tractor that was just randomly sitting on the stadium floor. Lesnar put on a cowboy hat. I'm pretty certain he had his flannel cut off up there as well on his seat, and just drove his tractor down to the entrance, through the entrance aisle and down to the ring. it was just a fucking funny sight. Just so many things about it. If you guys didn't see it, please go see it. Like it just tickled me. I just loved it. During the entrance, Mike Rome was attempting to make the introduction for Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar cut him off, said he is a good old country boy from, did he say where he was from? Or that he was just a good old country boy and that he was there, just did his introduction essentially. But you guys need to hear that as well. I obviously am not going to do it justice. And then, it was just the regular introductions for Roman Reigns. I loved the start of the match. At that point, I was remiss to mention the front loader on the tractor itself. Brock Lesnar kind of raised a little bit above the ring, so he could stand on the front load, and that's where he was making his introduction and all that shit. Once the bell sounded, he jumped off of the front loader onto Roman Reigns, and that's how the match started. And I just loved it. But you guys, if you see one match from SummerSlam, you have to see this match just for the sheer chaotic, just wildness of just all of the shit, like the brutality, the creativity, just everything. Like they hit pretty much everything in that match. They went out into the fans. They were throwing each other into the lighting beams. Just everything. Like I'm not gonna sit here and go through the entire match itself because you guys really need to see it. And I truly believe this was probably some people are saying it was their second best match together. I think it was probably their best. I know WrestleMania 31 was a really solid match, and it's maybe better in a different regard wrestling wise, but I just think this match, it just had everything. Probably the moment of the match, obviously, and especially what everyone's going to be talking about, since the tractor was still at ringside, Brock at one point backed the tractor up a little bit and then kind of rammed the front loader into the ring. He actually legit moved the entire ring and moved it probably a good 5, maybe 10-ish feet, just scooting it on the ground from the impact from the tractor. Can't believe I'm saying this on a wrestling podcast. He then lowers the front loader, scoops it up underneath of the ring, and mind you, while he's doing this, Roman Reigns is in the middle of the ring. He's inside the ring. Why wouldn't he be? It's a wrestling match. Brock Lesnar lifts the front loader, which is underneath of the ring, and pretty much the whole left side of the ring is just, God, a good, 15, 20 feet in the air. He leaves it that way. And as the ring itself is ascending into the air, Roman Reigns just topples and just gets pretty much just rolls out of the ring because of obviously he got dumped out of the ring. And that's how the ring stayed for the rest of the match. Legit stuck in the air on Brock Lesnar's tractor, the front loader, just in the middle of the air. I'm sure it sucked for the people who were on the other side of that, but I mean, look, at that point the match was pretty much over with. I mean, you had maybe another 10 minutes left, but with the size of the screens there, you guys saw a kick-ass match, and it would have been cool just to say you were there live for that, so I wouldn't have been one of those people complaining. But we did get a Austin Theory attempt a Theory attempted cash-in. Theory came out towards the end of the match after the ring was still in the air. Came in, tried to beat up Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns with the briefcase, and there's various spots throughout this match, but there was one that I do have to say specifically where I thought Roman Reigns legit got hurt. They had already gone through, I think, 2 or 3 tables at that point, and one of the ends of the table that holds the leg. So you pretty much have the leg of the table, and obviously that's holding the remaining half of the table that's still left. Oh my God, Brock Lesnar picks up Roman Reigns and just slams him through that broken piece of the table, and Roman Reigns' I believe it was his right elbow, just smacked the top of the table. Between that and I know the pain, because that's just not a good spot of the table to go through, right? They always say the sweet spot is the center of the table, obviously. So the fact that the impact to his elbow and then his back, just I know between that spot and then just everything else that Roman Reigns took, that dude was taking a fucking beating. But between that and then thinking back on all of the brutal just shots from the briefcase that Roman was giving onto Brock Lesnar, once Theory was out there, Brock Lesnar pretty much just like ended Theory's dreams of cashing in, hit him with an F5, and so Theory is pretty much done and out of the picture at that point. I think Roman Reigns ended up hitting Theory with a spear. I could be making that up. Maybe not. I may be mistaken. I may be thinking of the ending spot there. But yeah, like, dude, like, and at one point before Roman Reigns was able to get the upper hand, Lesnar was, when he was on his, like, just warpath of destruction, Paul Heyman got in his face and got mouthy with him. He was like, pretty much saying, like, he grabbed the titles. He was like, look, Lesnar, look, Brock, you want this? Here's your titles. Take them and go. Leave my tribal chief alone. That's my meal ticket. That supports my family. That puts that puts food on my kids' table. Like, what do you want? He was like, is this what you want to hear? Brock, and then does the Brock Lesnar intro. Like, Heyman was just, in this spot, it was just fucking brilliant. Lesnar is obviously done, and just at this point, he's just so over Paul Heyman. Just hearing his mouth, everything that Heyman has put him through in the past, maybe close to a year. Heyman gets scooped up by Brock Lesnar and gets F5 through the announcer's table at the ringside. And Heyman just was dead after that. He sold that so well. Yeah, just kudos to Heyman there. I'm such a Heyman fan. It's just insane how talented this dude is. Just the little things that he does are just great. But this setup for the ending sequence, Roman Reigns was hitting Lesnar with just various things, and I compared Lesnar to Michael Myers at one point. Just it seemed like every move that Reigns was hitting him with, he was just not staying down. The Usos at one point towards the end of the match did make their way through the fans as well to kind of gang up on Brock Lesnar. And it just seemed like nothing was going to keep Brock Lesnar down. Finally, what they ended up doing, I'm pretty certain Reigns had hit Lesnar with a spear at one point. Lesnar got up, and then Reigns was just done. I think he even said, you're done here, don't ever come back, or something to that effect. He hit Lesnar over the head with the title a good 2, maybe 3 times, but 2 times for certain. And then the Usos and Reigns just started piling just a whole bunch of shit on top of Lesnar. Chairs, I'm pretty sure, like a set of stairs were thrown on there, pieces of the table, just anything you could think of just to make sure Lesnar stayed down for the count of 10, which he did, and that was the ending of the main event. Roman Reigns is your last man standing. He retains the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship, whatever the exact titling of the championship is now, and he heads on to Clash at the Castle to face Drew McIntyre. We will see what ends up happening with that. I'm not going to get too much into that because the show here is run pretty long today, but I do appreciate you guys for checking out the show in general and listening to today's review. Let me know what you guys thought of the show, and like I said, stay on the lookout for a second part to the show that I did with Elvis Escobar from the other night. But thank you guys as always for listening. Have a fantastic week.